Welcome to Happiness is a Healthier Habit with me, your nutrition coach. My name is Jackie Poole, and here on the show, we talk about mom life, weight loss, habits, nutrition, and everything in between. And I really try to be open about what's going on and the things that I'm embracing and challenging and hard and emotional. And I feel like I want to, connect with you. So if you have any recommendations on anything that you would like me to talk about, it could be anything because it's a show about anything and everything. And I just want to talk a little bit about what's going on with us. We've had an interesting week when we've been kind of like sick, but not really. It's been more like allergies. Everybody's sneezing and coughing, and it's crazy because it's funny. My husband grew up with his mom giving him like all the medications, take this, take that, take, everything. And I grew up with my mom giving me like, she would cut up garlic and like oil and had me swallow it. So since I was very little, I got really well at swallowing like vitamins and things like that because it always helped that she started that very young. And even as an adult, I've never really gotten sick. And the times that I do get sick, it's very rare, right? It's like once a year that I get hit really bad or something like that. But remember, like all of these things that you have control over definitely make a difference on how your body reacts. And speaking of that, sometimes we're on the go, right? Especially now when we have all of these things planned, trips, shopping, events, gatherings, all of the fun stuff that is coming along with this season, which is so cheerful. But I want to take a moment to slow you down, really get you in the mood to focus on today's episode, which is going to be the power of consistency, because this time of year can be very challenging for a few individuals, from, maybe overeating, overindulging, which I get it because all of these, Christmas and Thanksgiving, it literally revolves about all these treats and foods and things like that. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I wanted to do a breathing technique today. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it a couple times, is we're going to inhale for 4 and exhale for 8, right? This is going to allow our body to really relax and calm down and focus and receive that oxygen to go to our brains and really take us to really focus on today's message. So again, we're just going to do it a couple times. I'm going to be counting for you, and as soon as I start, you breathe and exhale. So here we go. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, welcome back. So today I wanted to talk about the power of consistency, because sometimes there's people that I've talked to, women that I've had consults with, that really want to learn, how do I get my discipline? How do I, make it work? And what happens with a lot of people is they do everything because they want fast results, right? They either overeat, undereat, over exercise, and do all of these things. And you really gotta ask yourself, how can the work that you're doing today accumulate and layer on top of what I already did yesterday, right? And this really defines the habits that you have, because all of those routines that you've nurtured, that you've developed, that you've had are really going to contribute to you being successful this time around, or really down railing and just giving up this season, because that's what happens with a lot of people. Oh, it's, Thanksgiving is coming. It's cold outside. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to drive to the gym. It's raining. It feels gloomy. I don't feel like doing it. That motivation, that spark that initiated for you to live a healthier life is kind of dwindling right now, right? Because all of these things are changing and you're finding all of these excuses that are probably not a part of what you had or hoped or goals. And so consistency is really compounding the effects of your results, right? So if you're doing all of the good things that you want to be doing, then you're going to see those results. But if it's the same for when you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, or you kind of stop doing what you're doing, right? Because sometimes maintaining our weight or how we want to look can definitely be challenging during this time, because we kind of stop doing what was working for us, because we, lose that motivation, start feeling a little bit lazy, start finding the excuses. And staying consistent is going to be hard sometimes. There's days that you're not going to want to do it. And it's really not about the willpower, right? Because willpower for me it's not really a big truth. It's having that self-discipline and really implementing those habits that are going to get you through. For example, if you wake up and have a glass of water ready every day, you're more likely to drink that water than if you don't have it set up the night before and you don't see it, because you might forget to, in the mornings, if you're rushing, if you're starting to get the kids ready for school, if you're starting to get ready for work, if you have a meeting, like things are, when you wake up, you go, and you don't see that glass of water and you don't drink it. So it's the power of habits that will really power up your self-discipline, because it's not about the willpower here. So what I see when people talk to me and, they have a hard time with discipline and consistency. So this is what I see. I see people want fast results. Oh, lose weight in, 30 pounds in 1 month, or really looking for shortcuts, or want to do all of the things. I want to strength train, I want to cardio, I want to do eat less, and do all the things. What ends up happening is people get burnt out. Like, what is this? This is so hard to maintain. This is not even possible. I can't do this for the rest of my life. They feel discouraged that maybe something's wrong with them, that they're doing all the things maybe and their body's not reacting to what they're doing. And what I see most is many get the results. They lose the weight, and very extreme methods going up with doing all of the things, and they're so burnt out, they're so tired of it, that it was so hard to get it done in the first place, that they just go back to how it was, because it's the easiest solution, right? I'm like, okay, I lost the weight, I can go back to how I was doing, and then they regain the weight. That is one of the hardest things to maintain that health, that stability. I'm not saying that things aren't always going to be perfect. Like I've mentioned before, I've had a few rough months, and my consistency has not been there for a lot of things, whatever's easiest. But what I've tried to maintain is to stay hydrated, to at least keep my walks in, right? So my body still feels like it's benefiting from these little wins that I'm still able to give it. And What I also see is people don't really have that belief in themselves, in their investment of what they're doing. Some really, when I've talked to people, I've had individuals tell me it's too expensive. I don't have the time, or I don't have the money, or and what really tends to happen is they're not believing in the process, and they don't want to commit because sometimes they might be so afraid of failing again. They've tried so many different things and they just don't want to disappoint themselves. But at the same time, you have to realize and recognize that it's part of the journey, wins and loses. It's a lot of people focus on the scale. There's so many wins to that. Remember how you feel, how confident you feel about yourself, how much more energy you're having, how much better your quality of sleep is, how much better you're able to concentrate. Maybe you're more helpful around the house, or everybody's telling you you're in a better mood. People notice that when you start making these little changes. And that is part of the process. It's not just about the discipline and I have to get it done, because you also have to enjoy the process. You have to enjoy what you're doing. And that can be the hard part, because there's so many things out there. People tell you, you have to do this and you have to do that, and you don't know what's right. And honestly, what's right is what works for you and what you like doing. So, there might be things that I enjoy eating that my husband doesn't like eating, or my kids don't like eating. And that can be very hard to find a balance. But, finding that medium where we're still getting some kind of veggies in with at least our dinner, or, finding that medium where it's, everyone's happy and okay with the decisions that are being made at home. Because sometimes when you're doing it alone, it can be very difficult when you're initially making that change and you feel like you don't have that support, that help. Maybe your wife or your husband is not in that same boat as you. That's definitely can be difficult to, because we're doing all the right things and we're like, hey, you should do this, you should do that. And they're not ready to make that change. So you're at it alone. And that's why I always encourage you guys to get some type of help, because sometimes, yes, we can do it alone, but that support and everything that you learn with hiring and investing on that person is going to open your eyes to maybe doing different ways, talking to people different ways, doing it different ways, and maybe opening up to learning how to kind of hint without telling them, right? Because that makes a huge difference, because people aren't going to change until they're ready to change. And the more consistent you are, and your attitude and your behavior and how good you start looking, and you start projecting that with your self-esteem, and eventually that's going to start rubbing off on your circle, on your inner circle, and they're going to start noticing. And trust me, when you start making those changes, eventually it might not be in a week or so. It's going to take time, but eventually it's going to start trickling down to everyone around you. And I do want to remind you that consistency is not perfection. Discipline can sound very intimidating, but it's necessary, right? It's something that at the end of the day, like, how do I want to grow old? Like, I don't want to be crippled and everybody pushing me everywhere and me depending on my kids. That is not the quality of life that I want. So I always remember that. Consistency is not perfection. So it's not always perfect, but you do have to think of, how do I want to grow old? That is like the number one question that I always have in my head. Like, I do not want to be the the old person that's being pushed around, just placed in the corner. It's so sad. We had gone to a pumpkin patch a few weeks ago, and we were waiting for the wagon, that the tractor takes us around the park. And there's this old lady, and she's like, yeah, my daughter just put me here. She went over there, and she was like 70, late 70s, I think early 80s. I didn't ask her how old she was, but they kind of just dumped her there. And I want to be able to walk around and enjoy my grandkids and things like that. So it's always those moments that kind of open your eyes and really get you to think like, okay, as long as I'm consistent, I don't have to be perfect, but how that question of that you have to ask yourself, how can I work today to accumulate to what I did yesterday? How can I be better? Just that 1% makes such a huge difference. So you have to go all out 100 all the time, right? But we want most of the time to be consistent. So like I mentioned earlier, this time around, discipline starts to dwindle a little bit. It starts to fade, that motivation, it starts to dissipate, and I hear it all the time. I gained like 10 pounds during, the holiday season, and that's what I don't want to happen to you. And so this starts by creating these habits now to ensure you succeed, because what happens is people, gain these 10 pounds, right, during the holidays, and they might lose 5, and then next year the same thing. And so that weight, it slowly starts, creeping up on you, where you realize how did I get, where I am, years later. And that's what I don't want to happen to you. And so with discipline which is basically just the habits that you create, and those are long-term, the consistency. And when you have that consistency, you create that commitment, you create courage. Like when you start making these changes and really treating yourself like, wow, this week every day I had a glass of water for breakfast. I mean, I used to never have any water when I woke up. And so that probably made a huge difference. So when you start making things happen, you create that courage and you create that confidence that even on your hard days, you're still going to show up and do the work. So again, this is where that coaching comes in. You have to ask yourself, when I'm not motivated to do something I know I should, for example, go out for a walk because it's cold, what is that thought that you have to feel to be capable, right? And it's not going to be perfect. Sometimes the weather's not going to be perfect, but it's coming to it's really recommitting to yourself multiple times. So, sometimes you fail, you get back up and you go again. You fail, you get back up and you go again. And it's the same thing for example, I know a lot of people, or not a lot of people, right? I know close family members that struggled with alcohol and drugs, and addicts, for example, people that struggle with those types of things. They've had to, I'm pretty sure that the first time they went to rehab was not the only time they went. They really had to find it within their own power to recommit to themselves and have at least somebody believe in them. But you also have to have that belief within yourself that you can bring yourself up, that you can keep doing the work, that you can keep showing up for yourself. And that's where that consistency is. And the more wins you have, the more things you see changing, the more better you start feeling, and the more confidence you start creating, all of the things start to happen. You feel more capable of doing it. You're more consistent. You're more, aware and have more courage of branching out and doing different things, new things. So consistency is not just discipline, is having those habits that are really going to transform your life, and having you being able to recognize that I can do this. I can do this. I might need a little help, but I can do this. So having that consistency are habits, but is having that belief that is going to drive those actions, and those actions are going to drive our emotions, right? And those emotions that can definitely fluctuate, can go backwards, right? And so we want to have control of our emotions, because we don't want our emotions to have control of us. And that's what consistency is. It's basically doing the work, doing the actions to creating the feelings we want, not the other way around. So I hope today's episode was enjoyable. I hope you liked it. Share it with somebody that you know. Reminder, I do want to open up the application. I have opened up the applications for free coaching for certain individuals. All you do is have to apply. You will have that link below in the show notes. I am so grateful and thankful that you guys are here listening, and today was such a good one. If you heard my toddler, I'm sorry about that. Today was not a nap day, so we will get going, but have a great day. Thank you. All of the rest of the information will be in the show notes. Bye.